On a cold December morning in 2023, a frantic 911 call alerted the Colorado Springs police to a horrific scene. A mother and her daughter had been attacked by an intruder who had killed 2 other children in the same house. But as the investigation unfolded, the police realized that the mother was not a victim, but a suspect. This is the story of Kimberlee Singler, a Colorado mother who allegedly murdered 2 of her kids and fled the country to escape justice. Kimberlee Singler was a 35-year-old single mother of 3 children, an 11-year-old girl, a 9-year-old girl, and a 7-year-old boy. She lived in a modest home in a quiet neighborhood in Colorado Springs, where she worked as a nurse. She seemed to be a loving and devoted mother who cared for her children and their education. But behind the facade of a happy family, there was a dark and twisted reality. According to the police, Singler had a history of mental illness, substance abuse, and domestic violence. She had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and had been prescribed medication, which she often failed to take. She had also been involved in several abusive relationships and had filed restraining orders against some of her ex-partners. She had been accused of neglecting and harming her children and had been investigated by the Child Welfare Services multiple times. But despite the red flags, she had managed to keep custody of her kids and had convinced everyone that she was a good mother. On December 19, 2023, at around 9 a.m., Singler called 911 and reported a burglary at her home. She claimed that she had been asleep in her bedroom when she heard a loud noise downstairs. She said that she grabbed a knife from her nightstand and went to check on her children. She said that she found her 11-year-old daughter bleeding from a stab wound in her chest, and her 9-year-old daughter and 7-year-old son lying dead on the floor. She said that she saw a masked man running out of the house and that she tried to chase him, but he got away. She said that she then called 911 and waited for the police to arrive. When the police arrived, they found Singler and her 11-year-old daughter in the living room, both covered in blood. They also found the bodies of the other 2 children in their bedrooms, both with multiple stab wounds. The police searched the house for any signs of a break-in, but they found nothing. There were no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, no DNA, no footprints, nothing. The only evidence they found was the knife that Singler had used to defend herself, which had her fingerprints and blood on it. The police were puzzled by the lack of evidence and by Singler's inconsistent and vague statements. She could not provide a clear description of the intruder or explain why he would target her and her children. She could not explain why she did not hear him enter the house or why he did not attack her first. She could not explain why there were no signs of a struggle, or why the knife had only her DNA on it. Neither could she coherently tell why she had waited several minutes before calling 911, or why she had changed her clothes before the police arrived. Her story did not match the physical evidence, or why her surviving daughter had a different version of events. The police soon learned that Singler's 11-year-old daughter, who had survived the attack, had a different story to tell. She told the police that she had been awake that morning and that she had heard her mother arguing with someone on the phone. She said that she had heard her mother say that she was going to kill them all, and that she had heard her mother go into her siblings' rooms. The little girl had heard her mother stab her brother and sister, and then she heard them scream. She recounted how she had tried to hide under her bed, but that her mother had found her and stabbed her too. In order for her to live, she had pretended to be dead, and that her mother had left her alone. She said that she had heard her mother make the 911 call and that she had lied to the operator. Apparently, the little girl was afraid of her mother and that she wanted her to go to jail. The police were shocked by the daughter's testimony, and they decided to confront Singler with the evidence. They told her that they knew she was lying and that they had proof that she had killed her own children. She was also confronted with the fact that they had her daughter's statement and that she had confessed everything. They told her that they had her phone records and that they had traced the call she had made that morning. She was also informed that they had her bank records and that they had found out that she had bought a plane ticket to London. Her passport was in custody, and there was enough evidence that she had planned to flee the country. She was told her that had enough proof to charge her with 4 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, 3 counts of child abuse, and 1 count of assault. She had no chance of escaping justice and that she had better confess. But Singler refused to confess and maintained her innocence. She denied killing her children and accused the police of framing her. She denied making the phone call and claimed that someone had hacked her phone. She denied buying the plane ticket and claimed that someone had stolen her identity. She denied planning to flee the country. Singler was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder. She pleaded not guilty and demanded a trial by jury. She hired a high-profile lawyer who tried to cast doubt on the evidence and the motive. He argued that Singler was a victim of a random attack and that the police had botched the investigation. He suggested that the accomplice was the real killer and that he had acted alone or with someone else. He claimed that Singler had no reason to kill her family and that she loved them dearly. These were her lawyer's words. Kimberlee Singler is innocent. She is a loving mother who would never harm her children. She is a loyal wife who would never betray her husband. She is a law-abiding citizen who would never commit such a heinous crime. She is a scapegoat who has been falsely accused and persecuted by the police and the media. She deserves justice, and she will get it. And accordingly, these were the prosecutor's words as well. Kimberlee Singler is guilty. She is a cold-blooded killer who murdered her children in cold blood. She is a greedy wife who plotted to kill her husband for his money and his secrets. She is a dangerous criminal who planned to flee the country with her accomplice and her loot. She is a mastermind who has been lying and manipulating everyone from the start. She deserves punishment, and she will get it. The trial lasted for 6 weeks and was followed by millions of people around the world. The jury heard testimonies from witnesses, experts, relatives, friends, and co-workers. They saw evidence from the crime scene, the phone records, the bank accounts, and the security cameras. They listened to arguments from both sides and deliberated for 3 days. They reached a verdict and returned to the courtroom. The verdict was unanimous. Kimberlee Singler was convicted of killing her 2 children and attempting to kill her husband and her other child. She was sentenced to life in prison without parole. She showed no emotion, no remorse, no regret. She maintained her innocence and vowed to appeal. The case of Kimberlee Singler is one of the most shocking and sensational crimes of the decade. It exposed the dark side of a seemingly perfect family and revealed a twisted motive, a cunning plan, and a cold-blooded killer. It was a story of the deadly deception, the case of Kimberlee Singler. The case of Kimberlee Singler has had a profound impact on the lives of the victims' families, the community, and the society. The families of Kyle, Kylie, and Kevin Singler have been devastated by the loss of their loved ones and have struggled to cope with the trauma and the betrayal. They have sought counseling, support, and justice, and have tried to rebuild their lives. The community of Colorado Springs has been shocked and saddened by the horrific crime and has rallied around the survivors and the families. They have organized vigils, fundraisers, and memorials, and have expressed their solidarity and sympathy. The society at large has been fascinated and appalled by the case, and has followed the trial and the verdict with keen interest and curiosity. They have debated the motives, the evidence, and the sentence, and have wondered how such a crime could happen. The case of Kimberlee Singler has also raised some important questions and issues that need to be addressed and resolved. How can we prevent such crimes from happening? How can we protect ourselves and our families from potential dangers? How can we detect and treat mental illness and substance abuse? How can we ensure that the justice system is fair and effective? How can we heal and move on from such tragedies? Next on the list is the case the Las Vegas Family Massacre. On a cold and quiet Monday morning, a man made a chilling discovery in his brother's apartment. He found 5 people shot, 4 of them had been unalived, and 1 barely clinging to life. The shooter was his brother, who had killed his girlfriend and 2 of her children before taking his own life. A 3rd child survived, but was critically wounded. He was the only witness to the horror. What would drive a man to commit such a heinous act? What was his motive? What was his relationship with the victims? These are the questions that haunt the residents of Las Vegas, Nevada, after a shocking and devastating crime that took place on December 11, 2023. This is the story of the Las Vegas Family Massacre, a horrific crime and a heartbreaking mystery. Come along with me as we dive into the details of this horrific day. The brother of the shooter, whose name has not been released, had not heard from him for a while. He decided to check on him and went to his apartment on Oso Blanca Road, near US 95 and Durango Drive. He had a key, and he entered the apartment around 9:30 a.m. He was greeted by a gruesome scene. Blood was everywhere, on the walls, the floor, the furniture. He saw bodies lying on the couch, the bed, and the floor. He saw a handgun on the coffee table, next to a note. He realized that his brother had unalived his girlfriend and her children, and then himself. He was horrified and terrified. He called 911 and reported the crime. He then noticed that one of the children, a young boy, was still breathing. He was gasping for air and had multiple gunshot wounds. He rushed to his side and held his hand. He tried to comfort him and told him to hang on. He waited for the paramedics to arrive. The cops and the paramedics arrived shortly after. They confirmed that the shooter, a 45-year-old man, and his girlfriend, an older woman, were unalive. They also confirmed that 2 of the children, a boy and a girl, both under the age of 14, were dead. They transported the 3rd child, another boy, to the hospital. He was in critical condition and needed surgery. He was placed on life support and is the only survivor, and the only hope to shed some light on the mystery. The State Department has not disclosed the names of the shooter, his girlfriend, or the children. They said that they are respecting the privacy of the families and that they were still notifying the next of kin. Surprisingly, in this gruesome crime, the shooter and his girlfriend had been dating for a few months, and that the children were hers from a previous relationship. However, the contents of the note that the shooter had left has not been disclosed. It is said that it was vague and cryptic, and that it did not explain why he did what he did. They said that they were still investigating the crime, and that they had not found any clear motive or evidence of a struggle. It was evident that the apartment was neat and orderly, and that there was no sign of a forced entry. The shooter had used a handgun, which was registered to him, and that he had no criminal record or history of mental illness. This was a tragic and senseless crime, and the family of the victims and the authorities are doing everything they can to find answers. The police department said that they are working with the hospital to monitor the condition of the surviving child, and that they were hoping that he would recover and be able to tell them what happened. As I speak, the relatives, friends, and neighbors of the shooter and the victims are being interrogated, and their backgrounds, histories, and relationships are being looked into. Certainly, this is a complex and puzzling case, and which needs time and patience to solve. Everyone connected to this case one way or the other is determined to find out the truth and to bring justice and closure to the families and the community. The relatives and the neighbors were shocked and saddened by the crime. They said that the shooter and the adult victim had been dating for about 2 years and had moved in together about 6 months ago. The shooter was not the biological father of the adult victim's children, but that he treated them as his own, and they had called him Dad. The said shooter had a good job as an engineer, and the adult victim was a stay-at-home mom. The family seemed happy and normal, and the puzzling piece is what could have triggered this tragedy. The adult victim had had 3 children from a previous marriage, which had ended in divorce about 4 years ago. Her ex-husband, 40-year-old, name withheld, was the biological father of the children, and that he had shared custody of them. He was also devastated by the news of the crime, and he was at the hospital, praying for his son's recovery. As this gruesome story begins to unfold, the adult victim's mother, name withheld as well, had been visiting from out of town, and that she had arrived on Friday, December 3rd, 2023. She had come to spend some time with her daughter and her grandchildren, and to celebrate the 9-year-old boy's birthday. She had not seen them for a long time, and she was looking forward to catching up with them. She had no idea that her daughter was in danger, or that her son-in-law was a violent and unstable man. She had trusted him, and had believed that he loved her daughter and her grandchildren. She had no idea that he would kill them, and then himself. She had no idea that she would lose her daughter and 2 of her grandchildren in such a horrific way. She received a phone call from the police on Monday morning, informing her of the crime. She rushed to the apartment, hoping that it was a mistake or a prank. She collapsed when she saw the police tape, the ambulances, and the body bags. She screamed and cried, and begged the police to let her see her daughter and her grandchildren. She was inconsolable, and was taken to a hospital, where she was sedated and treated for shock. She survived, but she clearly has nothing left to live for. A thorough investigation has been launched into investigating the crime, and to try to put the pieces together. The police also checked the suspect's apartment, his phone, his computer, and his ankle monitor, which he was wearing as part of his house arrest. They found evidence that the suspect had a history of domestic violence, and had been arrested several times for assaulting his girlfriend, the woman who was killed. They found that the woman had filed a restraining order against him and had moved out of the apartment with her children. It was found that she had also filed for divorce and was seeking custody of the kids. The suspect was angry and resentful about the situation and had threatened to harm her and the children. Little would you know that the suspect had a mental illness and had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. He had been prescribed medication, but he had stopped taking it. He had also been seeing a therapist, but that he stopped attending the sessions. He had become paranoid, delusional, and suicidal, and he had expressed his intention to unalive himself and his family. It is believed that the suspect had planned the crime for a while and had waited for the right opportunity to carry it out. He had lured the woman and the children to his apartment under the pretext of celebrating the 9-year-old boy's birthday and then shot them, and then himself, in an apparent murder-suicide. A note had been left behind by him, but it was vague and cryptic, and it did not explain why he did what he did. He had planned it for weeks. He had bought a cake, balloons, and presents for the boy, and had decorated the apartment. He had also bought a gun, which he had hidden in his closet, disabled his ankle monitor, and had turned off his phone and his computer. Why did he do it? What was his motive? The police were baffled by the case and tried to find answers. They interviewed the suspect's brother, who was the one who called 911 and discovered the scene. He said that he had not heard from his brother for a while and that he had gone to check on him. He said that he had a key to the apartment and that he had entered and found the gruesome scene. He said that he had called the police and then tried to help the only survivor, a young boy who was gasping for air. He said that he had held his hand and whispered words of comfort until the paramedics arrived. The suspect's apartment, his phone, his computer, and his ankle monitor were checked. It was discovered that the suspect had a history of domestic violence and had been arrested several times for assaulting his girlfriend, the woman who was killed. The woman had filed a restraining order against him and had moved out of the apartment with her children. She had also filed for divorce and was seeking custody of the kids. The suspect was angry and resentful about the situation and had threatened to harm her and the children. What drove him to commit such a heinous act? That was the question that haunted the investigation department. They had some theories and opinions about the possible reasons and motives behind the crime. Maybe he was suffering from a mental breakdown and had lost touch with reality. Maybe he had a psychotic episode and acted on his delusions and hallucinations. Or was it that he had believed that he was saving his family from a worse fate, or that he was fulfilling a divine mission, or that he was being controlled by an evil force? Or maybe he was acting out of revenge and wanted to punish his girlfriend for leaving him and taking the children. Maybe he was jealous and possessive and could not accept the fact that she had moved on with her life. Or he wanted to hurt her and make her suffer, and that he did not care about the children, who he saw as obstacles or enemies. Or better still, he was acting out of despair and wanted to end his own life and his family's life. Maybe he owed money, or crossed someone, or witnessed something that put him and his family in danger. The investigation is still ongoing and waiting for the results of the autopsy and the ballistics. They are working with the hospital to monitor the condition of the surviving child and hope that he will recover and be able to tell them what happened. But what if he was not the killer? What if he had a dark secret? What if he was targeted or attacked by someone who wanted to silence him or his family? These are few of many that are still being pondered on as they dig deeper into the case. The investigation is not over yet. The police are exploring all the possibilities and not ruling out anything. Every lead is being followed and every clue being examined. They are determined to find the truth and to solve the mystery. This video is about the Las Vegas family massacre, a real tragedy with real issues. Issues that we need to face, prevent, and solve. This is also a challenge for us to empathize and reflect. At the end of this video, I urge you to take action. If you or someone you know needs help, please reach out. There are people and organizations that can help you. You are not alone, and you are not hopeless. You are valuable, and you deserve happiness and health. And if you want to help others, please support the organizations that work to end violence and promote health. You can donate, volunteer, advocate, or educate, and make a positive change. Please join me in this call to action, and let's make this world better and safer. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you learned something. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. If you have any feedback or opinions, please leave them in the comments. I would love to hear from you and to know what you think. And if you have any ideas or requests, please let me know. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.